Hello, I'm Shawnee Weiss. I'm the University Events Student Event Manager for Brandeis. I'm just going to go ahead and review some student org event planning guidelines to hopefully help you this semester and going forward so that you know a general idea of how you should be planning your events. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so this slideshow can also be found in campus groups, so be sure to reference that as we go through. There are lots of links within this slideshow, so I want to make sure that you guys have access to those as we review. So this first slide is kind of a general timeline for how you should be planning your events. A good rule of thumb is to start reserving your space 1 year out. This is especially important for Levin Ballroom and Sherman that get reserved quite a ways out, especially on the weekends. We allow you to reserve space up to 1 year in advance. So make sure that you're not requesting it more than a year in advance because we'll tell you to wait and fill out the form again later. About 8 weeks out, you can begin detailing your event with me. You can do that by either emailing me or scheduling a meeting with me on Calendly. 4 weeks out, we say that's the deadline to reserve space. Mostly spaces just get booked really quickly, so it's important for you to have your form filled out and submitted to us so that we can find an appropriate space for your event on campus. There's just such limited space, and we want to make sure that you have the space that you need for your event. 3 weeks out, we recommend that you have your event uploaded into campus groups. You're going to create an event in campus groups, fill out the details. You can still edit those details afterwards, but we need you to start, advertising your event to the community, accepting RSVPs, things like that. Also, 3 weeks out is the deadline to request SPS. So if you need any AV or tech, so microphones, lighting, sound, even speakers, things like that, you need to request that at least 3 weeks out, but ideally far earlier. If you know you're going to need AV, go ahead and submit the request form. 2 weeks out, your event details really need to be finalized. We'll go into this in more detail in a couple of slides. But ideally, or actually not even ideally, but we absolutely need your event finalized 2 weeks out because we can't guarantee changes after that. Day of the event, obviously enjoy your event. The more you plan in advance, the better it's going to be, and the more you can relax and enjoy the day of. I did include our university events on-call number. So even if your event is on a weekend, this number is routed to, so this number here is routed to a member of our on-call staff who can assist and kind of triage things even on a Saturday or Sunday. Reserving your space. So you can use our event website for a list of forms for various spaces on campus. I also have them linked in a couple of more slides, but this website link, look at it here, is usually updated with who is responsible for different areas on campus and how to book them. If you're not sure what space to choose, of course, you can email me directly or student request at brandeis.edu. I have student staff that monitor that email address at all times, so they can also assist and kind of guide you into finding a space that works for you, depending on the size and the type of event that you're trying to host. As I said earlier, event detailing, you'll email me the details of your event so that I can start putting those together. I have my email address listed there, or this is a link to schedule a meeting with me to discuss. We'll go to that as well. So like I said, it's Calendly. This is really easy. You'll click on the link. You can see what days I'm available. And and it's linked to my calendar, so your meeting will end up directly there. It does automatically create a Zoom link, but if you prefer to meet in person, just put that in the message and I'll know to expect you in my office. My office is located in Cuts Hall. Requesting SPS. As I mentioned, they do book up quickly. So SPS is free for all student groups and it's completely student run. So the students who run SPS, they show up to your event, they set up all the tech that's needed and they'll run your event for you if that's required. But that said, there's limited staff within that office. So the sooner you're getting your request, it's first come, first serve. So the sooner you get in your request, the more likely it is that they'll be able to service the event for you. Also linked here is submitting a request form for them. This is a link to their general page, but here is their request form. And they'll just ask for any information that they need to know what you need for your event. Campus groups. You're probably already on campus groups if you're hearing this recording, so great job there. Make sure you submit your event on campus groups as soon as possible. Event details can always be adjusted later, but by posting your event, you're advertising to the community, so you'll get more people attending your event. And then you can collect RSVPs, which can, adjust the number of people who are coming. The sooner you post it, you may have expected 50 people, but now you have 75 people RSVP'd. Certain spaces will only fit certain amounts of people. So it's really important to know how many people you're expecting. RSVPs will help with that. You will also submit payment request forms in campus groups. This is really important. We'll talk about that a little bit on the funding slide. Okay. I said I'd talk about this, and I really want to stress that all details must be finalized and payment requests must be submitted at least 2 weeks prior to your event. I will spend the last 2 weeks leading up to your event, making sure that everything is finalized. All of the stakeholders know exactly what you need. That includes how you want the room set up, any rentals that you need ordered. I have to place that order. If public safety is needed, they need to schedule a public safety officer. If you need catering and you've ordered catering on campus, I need to make the arrangements with the catering staff to make sure that your food shows up when it's supposed to. So there's a lot of nitty-gritty details that happen the last couple of weeks prior to your event, and we really need that time to make it happen. And I cannot stress this enough, if your event is not completely finalized and detailed, I can't make promises that it'll actually happen. Unfortunately, if it's not confirmed 2 weeks beforehand, I may have to cancel your event. I can't stress it enough. We really need details finalized in order to make it happen. There's just so many people that are involved, and there's so many details that happen leading up to 2 weeks is really that final deadline. Day of event. So I mentioned this earlier, but I'll say it again. If you have any issues that come up the day of your event, please contact us. I have the phone number listed here. This could include like you're missing chairs or you're missing tables or your catering didn't show up on time or anything like that. Feel free to reach out to us. We can triage, we can call catering, we can call facilities, we can call whoever we need to call in order to make sure that things are adjusted as you requested. Of course, ideally, things go exactly according to plan, but things happen. So give us a call, we'll fix it. Details of your event. So these are the things that I really need to focus on and make sure that you're communicating to me prior to that 2-week deadline that we just talked about. These are the things that I will be putting into the system and communicating out to stakeholders. So where you're hosting the event, obviously you have to have a space reserved in order to have an event, but how many people determines where you fit. So if you reserved a space that only accommodates 50 people and 75 people show up, Unfortunately, 25 people will not be able to enter that space. So make sure that you're communicating all of your needs and you have the appropriate space reserved. If you have an outside performer or vendor or contractor that's part of your event, make sure that you're submitting those contracts for approval at least 6 weeks ahead of time. Those things have to go through our procurement office, and it does take a while to manage the contract and get it approved, get it signed, get it back to the contractor, and make sure that payment is issued and on its way. Will there be food or drinks at your event? So this is really important because we need to know if you need catering. Are you ordering catering from on campus? Are you ordering catering from off campus? Have you made those arrangements for payment and things like that? Also keep in mind that all events with food and or beverage do require a custodian. I have to book that custodian at least 2 weeks in advance in order to make sure that the custodian is there to help clean up and manage the event itself. They'll bring trash cans, they'll bring compost bins, and they'll do all of the cleaning before the event and after the event. How many people? So this kind of goes back to point one, but depending on the type of event, in addition to what space you end up in, it also determines what staffing you need. The more people you have at your event, the more custodial staff will be needed, and there is a possibility of public safety being needed depending on the type of event. And then what resources do you need? So this kind of goes into the layout of your event and what you're planning on doing. So do you need tables? Do you need chairs? Do you need technology? And just making sure that you have all of those things requested through me, through SPS, and through all of the other stakeholders on campus. But I will be your main resource and your main point of contact to ensure that all of these things are set up. Okay. So I mentioned this slide a while back, but reserving a space on campus, in addition to it being linked out on our website, I have them all linked here. So let's go through them real quick. DCL, they have their own request form for spaces on campus to reserve. So think Skyline Commons, Ridgewood Commons, other DCL Res Hall spaces. The SCC, they have their own request form. So that's the SCC multipurpose room, the TV lounge, the SCC theater, even the Great Lawn. So anything that's connected to the campus center will be reserved on their form. ICC, they have a fun calendar on their website. So there is opportunity for you to see what events are booked on what days and what spaces, and you can see, what's available and not available on certain days. And then you can make reservations within here as well. You can also always email the Intercultural Center email address to follow up on reservations. Gosman, so if you have anything in there, they also have a fun calendar, exactly the same as the ICC, where you can request spaces if you want to rent a basketball court or the soccer field or anything else. You can do that here. And then everything else, it comes through my office. So that includes USDAN, Hassenfeld, Chums, outdoor spaces, so that's like Chapels Field, Fellows Garden, the USDAN courtyard, things like that, the blue booths in Fellows Garden, and classrooms. So everything else will be through our form, which looks like this. Space guidelines. So we do have some rules for various spaces. Levin Ballroom, it's one of our most reserved spaces on campus. it books up very quickly because it has a built-in stage and it can accommodate large groups of people. So there is a limit of one reservation per group per semester, and then a max of 2 days booking at a time. So in theory, each group can have 1 weekend per semester, but even then, request it well in advance to make sure that you get that slot. The faculty club, there are food and beverage minimums. The faculty club kind of functions as its own restaurant. So if you go to a restaurant there and you are reserving a private event at a restaurant, there are typically food and beverage minimums that you have to hit in order to have a private party. So same thing in the faculty club. There are food and beverage minimums and service fees. So you'll have to pay for basically the staffing for the faculty club to be open and operable for your event. So email me to start talking about that well in advance, because it does take a little bit more time and coordination. Classrooms. So because of classes, we only reserve classrooms after 6:45 Monday through Friday. The weekends are free for all, but classes are very typical before 6:45. So we only do evening events, later evening events during the week. And then stages. This kind of loops back to point 1 here about Levin. I know that everyone wants to book Levin because it has a stage. We can reserve and rent stages in other spaces. So think Sherman Function Hall. I can rent a stage for that space. I've rented stages for outside. Just kind of talk through what you need and let me know, and we can make arrangements. If Levin isn't available, or if you've already booked it for your 1 weekend per semester, we can find options elsewhere. Starting with a diagram. So I can make these diagrams for every space on campus for the most part. This is an example of what Levin looks like for an event that happened in the spring of 2023. I can add pipe and drape. I can have chairs, tables, however you want it. That way you can see exactly how it'll be laid out. And this is to scale, so you can get an idea of what will fit and what won't within each space on campus as well. Okay, funding. I mentioned this before too, but this kind of goes back to funding and campus groups and payment requests and things like that. Budget accordingly. So you guys have already received your budget for the semester. You received that in the spring semester, so you should know what you're working with. These are just some typical things that you will spend money on at an event. Custodians. We price out custodians based on a matrix. So the matrix is linked here, so you can kind of start to get a feel for how much this will cost. These fees are estimates. Keep in mind that if you need additional time to set up, so let's say your event is at 6 p.m., but you need it to be set up by 4 p.m. so that you have 2 extra hours to do your own setup. Unfortunately, you'll have to pay for the custodian to be there during that setup time. So this really only accounts for the amount of time that the custodian needs to set up. If you need extra time, that will cost extra amounts of money. So let me know what you need, and I can get you a more accurate estimate based on that. Rentals. So depending on where your event is, there are certain amounts and types of furniture within those buildings. I know exactly what's in every building. I have an inventory list for the most part that's accurate. So let me know what kind of furniture you need, and that way I know what we may need to supplement. So for example, in Mandel Forum, if you're having an event in there and you have 70 people, I might know that there's only 50 chairs in Mandel that we can use in the forum. That means I'd need to rent an additional 20 chairs. Things like that are things that I can help out with and can kind of get you quotes for so that you can prepare and know how much your event will cost. Public safety. As I mentioned earlier, public safety is sometimes required depending on the size of event and the type of event. Typically, it's more large scale events like 250 plus people that require a public safety officer to be there. But if it's a dance or a speaker that we are concerned about, or a larger scale concert or something like that, public safety may deem it necessary to have an officer at that event. They can be plainclothes officers. They don't have to be dressed in uniform. We can talk through what that looks like and what you guys are comfortable with. Food and catering. Clearly, that's going to cost money. Food always costs money. So depending on if you're ordering from on campus or off campus, or what restaurant you're ordering from, if you have alcohol at your event, those are different types of pricing. Keep in mind that you will also, if you're ordering from off campus, you may also need to order plates and utensils and things like that. And then contracts. So think of if you're bringing in a speaker or a performer, or you need to order some additional piece of equipment from a vendor off campus. That's a contract that we need to work through. That is typically done with student engagement, or that process is started with student engagement. But I can also assist with those as needed. But I think we talked about earlier, make sure you're planning way far in advance for those contracts, as it does take at least 6 weeks to get them processed in procurement. Campus groups. So going back to campus groups, as soon as we have all of your event details finalized, I will send you a final invoice. This final invoice is what you will upload into campus groups as a payment request form. I cannot book any services until I see that payment request form come through. So that means I can't book a custodian, I can't book public safety, I can't book rentals that you may need for your event. So keep that in mind and make sure that you're submitting a payment request form as soon as you get that final invoice from me. Food and beverage. So there is no food or beverage waiver for fall 2023. I know we're all very excited about that. That means you're welcome to order from any caterer off campus as you'd like. That said, on campus, Collective Catering can assist with any custom menu requests that you may have. Feel free to reach out to me. I can connect you with catering and we can start those conversations whenever you're ready to do so. Remember to order tables for your food. It's a silly thing, but this is something that's often forgotten. People will make diagrams and things like that for seating for their guests, but they'll forget that they have food and forget to order tables to set their food on. So remember to let me know that you're going to have food and that you may need an extra table or two for that. Also remember tablecloths. That's a silly reminder, but something that I've seen happen many times where you don't remember to order linens or tablecloths. A lot of our tables have like a wood top to them. They cause splinters and it's just nicer looking to have them covered. Custodians, remember that custodians are required for any events that have food or beverage. And I can help price that out for you. And then alcohol, I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but if you're serving alcohol on campus, it must be ordered through Collective Catering. You cannot bring your own alcohol to events. You can't order it from elsewhere. It has to be ordered through Collective Catering if you're serving it on Brandeis property. And if you're serving alcohol, you must also serve food, and that food must be ordered through Collective Catering as well. Just a note that if you are serving alcohol, that's another reason that public safety would be involved. A public safety officer is always required at events that have alcohol. campus groups. I've mentioned this before, but make sure that you're creating your event on campus groups. I've linked to it here, but make sure that's done at least 3 weeks before your event. And then let me know if you have any questions or concerns. I'm here to help you through the entire event process. I have my direct line listed here as well as my email address. The student request at Brandeis will reach my student staff who can also assist if I'm not available for some reason. And then my Calendly link is also listed here to schedule meetings. I wish you all the best in the fall semester. Let me know what you need help with and we'll be in touch. Thanks.